Please, help me. I can't take it anymore. I called my husband, Dominic, while he was on a business trip. I told him that my mother-in-law has bullied me every single day and that I couldn't take it anymore, which is why I called for help. But, huh, you know that I'm working right now. You do know that, right? I could hear how irritated Dominic was over the phone, and I got a little nervous. As my wife, you're supposed to be patient and endure all the difficulties. So, to be honest, if you're not even aware that you have to be patient or endure such difficulties, then you're not fit to be my wife at all. If you ever call me again just for this, I will not allow you to call me anymore. All right? Don't you dare bother me about these petty things again. And just listen to what my mother has to say. That's all. Just saying that, Dominic hung up on me without even hearing what I needed to say. I just only wanted him to help me. I cried and dialed again, but my husband never picked up. Oh, finally I see. This man is never going to help me, huh? I closed my eyes while I cried. My name is Bella. I got married to my husband, Dominic, 3 years ago. Dominic was a salesman at the company I had joined as a new employee, and as his direct subordinate, he had taught me many things about the work and how the company ran. At the time, I found him wonderful to work with, so when he began to approach me, I felt really happy. We ended up dating less than a year after I joined the company, and in the winter of my second year at the company, Dominic had proposed. I had actually intended to continue working after we got married, but Dominic refused that I continue working at the company. A husband is supposed to make things easy for his wife. Besides, it would be more convenient for us if we were thinking about having kids in the future. I could understand his point of view, but I also had my own reasons for wanting to work. I needed to be prepared to give up the career I had built over the years, and above all, I was proud of my current job. In the end, however, my opinion did not go through. I was told to quit work, and I was told to leave the company before I began my third year at the company. Dominic and I had talked about many things before we got married, but the thing he was most concerned about was the house. Both of us had been living alone, but Dominic suggested that we move into a new house when we got married. I'll be responsible for getting our house, so please just terminate the contract for the place that you're living in right now. We've already got the property, so we can move there soon enough. When I asked him questions about what kind of house it was, Dominic never told me anything about it or the details of the house. He said it was a surprise, but for me, I was worried about it. I was worried about what kind of house we would move into, but he had no hesitation in terminating the contract on the place where he lives currently, so I also terminated the contract for my place too. And that was how I was brought into Dominic's parents' house. I complained to Dominic about it, but he just replied in a grumpy manner. My mom has been living on her own ever since my dad passed away a few years ago. Don't you feel sorry for her? She's your husband's family, so don't get so depressed about it. Even so, wouldn't it be nice to have a word about it beforehand? You should take into consideration about me too. What the heck? You don't want to live together with my family that much? I've asked a lot of people around me, and no one dislikes the idea as much as you do. So it seems like you're the one who has a bad personality, huh? As Dominic said that, he shook his head as if to say that I was the one who was insane. I had so many things I wanted to say back to him, but I already had no job to go back to and no home. So I didn't have enough power to just refuse and leave. Thus, I began my life with my mother-in-law, Abby. Well, actually, living with Abby was a wonderful experience. I often hear stories about wives who were harassed by their husbands' mothers, and I was afraid that Abby would bully me, but she never did that. In fact, I was the one being taken care of more by Abby than me taking care of Abby. I am so happy that a nice girl like you married my son, and I'm so glad that you're going to live with us. I've been so lonely by myself. Thank you. Abby had treated me like her real daughter. She helps me with my share of the house chores, and she's really good at baking, and has taught me all kinds of recipes. Oh, it's like I'm having a real daughter. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm having fun every day. Like this, Abby has never forgotten to thank me. Seeing this wonderful side of Abby, I felt really bad for not wanting to live with her in the beginning. After 3 years of living with Abby, I felt it was time for Dominic and I to move on to the next step, to have a baby. If I got pregnant, Abby would definitely help me, so I wouldn't have to worry. Besides, I wanted to make Abby happy by showing her the face of her grandchild as soon as possible. Dominic, honey, don't you think it's time to start thinking about having a baby soon? When I asked Dominic, he stared at me as if he had seen something he didn't like. If you really feel that way, why don't you try your best to be attractive more? We've been spending so much time together lately that I haven't been that attracted to you, and I haven't been looking at you as a woman. I was speechless when he said that to me. Oh, well, I am sorry. I'll do my best. So you should be supportive too, Dominic. You would want to show your own mother the face of her grandchild as soon as possible, wouldn't you? Then, Dominic thought for a moment and answered as if he was a little annoyed. I'm tired from work today. Let's talk tomorrow. Dominic's nonchalant attitude continued, and he did not seem to be giving the matter any serious thought. He was also coming home extremely late these days. Even though he was a salesman, he was not supposed to work that late, but recently, he was coming home very late around midnight. Hey, aren't you coming home very late these days? With your job, there is no work that requires you to stay that late, is there? Oh, shut up. You've only been in the company for a few years, so what do you know about my work? I go home tired. You can't even be grateful for what I do around here. This is how Dominic has been lately. It feels like a long time ago when we used to get along well with each other. I'm sure that if I let things continue like this, our marriage will collapse someday. But Dominic doesn't seem to have the supportive feelings to even be there for me. Not knowing what to do, I decided to talk to Abby about what has been happening. She took my feelings into consideration and comforted me with kind words. Yes, then let's do this. Let's have Dominic worry about you, and maybe he'll be more serious. And what she suggested was that I lie to Dominic and tell him that Abby was bullying me badly. Oh, I can't do that. I can't make you, who has always been so good to me, a bad person. I am happy enough that you feel that way, Bella. Besides, I want to see my grandchild's face as soon as possible, so I want you guys to have a good relationship as a husband and wife. Abby gently persuaded me to go through with the plan to get Dominic worried about me. Dominic was off work that day, but he had gone for a drive to get away from distractions and to get refreshed. I called him at a time when he would be eating lunch, and he answered the phone as if he was a little irritated. What is it? I'm driving and feeling all good, but then you call me and ruin these goodbyes. Now you're just gonna spoil the fun. Hey, I actually have something to say that I don't feel comfortable talking to you about at home. Actually, Abby is harassing me very badly. I continued the conversation, acting like I was whispering so people wouldn't hear me. Next to me, Abby was having her hand over her mouth, desperately trying not to burst out laughing. I was looking forward to seeing how my husband would react, but what came out of his mouth were just so shocking to hear. You're the wife, so you're supposed to put up with it. You're saying that my mom is harassing you, but I think that it's partially your fault for being so useless too, don't you think? You don't even work anyway. You just stay at home, so you at least should put up with it. Also, my mom must be going through menopause, and maybe everything you do is getting on her nerves, you know? The only thing mom's looking forward to is probably harassing you. So just let her do it. Dominic laughed it off as he said this, and this just left me speechless. Plus, I could hear a woman's voice in the background of our phone call. The only thing that your wife is worth is for her to take care of your old mother. I heard those words just before I hung up the phone. As I hung up the phone, Abby and I looked at each other. The conversation I had with Dominic was on speaker so that Abby could hear everything we were saying. I can't believe Dominic would say those awful things about you, Bella. I can't believe Dominic would say such thing about you, Abby. Then, we both shouted, that's absolutely unacceptable. And the woman's voice we heard over the phone was clearly talking to Dominic. When Dominic left this morning, he was saying that he was going for a relaxing drive all day alone, but I never thought that he was there with another woman. I also suspected him of cheating on me, but it's not like he's going to tell me the truth when I question him. I discussed with Abby and decided to go through with pretending of not knowing until we found any sort of proof. A few days later, Dominic suddenly left the house, saying he had to go on a business trip. I'll be gone for a few days, so please take care of my mom in the house for me. Don't cry if my mom harasses you. Dominic left the house with a smile on his face, and I could see that this man was not going to the business trip for work. When I tried to call him at night or other times, he wouldn't answer his phone, and when I sent him a message, he wouldn't reply. It seems that he doesn't intend to respond to me at all during his business trip. Taking advantage of this, Abby and I immediately contacted an investigator to investigate about Dominic's affair. The results of the investigation came out immediately, and our theory was right. And it seemed that he was not very good at hiding his affair, and many photos were taken of him getting along with his mistress in different places. All of these photos were taken during this business trip. When my mother-in-law and I saw the photos of Dominic and his mistress, we could do nothing but just sigh. I don't remember raising him to be that much of a scumbag. I'm so disappointed in that boy. More than the affair, I was angry at Dominic for making Abby feel that way, so I immediately called him. I thought he wouldn't answer anyway, but this time, he happened to answer. Dominic, what are you doing now? Aren't you supposed to be at work? I accused him in a pretty direct way, and Dominic yelled back at me, being all surprised. Of course I'm doing work. I went out of my way to pick up the phone in the midst of my busy schedule. You're such a jerk. Because you're not being inconsiderate like that. My mom harasses you. Say any more nonsense, and I'll tell on you to my mom too. Dominic was still thinking that Abby was bullying me even though it was a big fat lie. He probably thinks that if he is picking on his wife, Abby would be on his side. But Abby herself was standing next to me, red-faced and angry with Dominic. Dominic, who didn't know about this, was just laughing away, saying terrible things to me. You accused me of having an affair, but aren't you doing that because, actually, you're having an affair and you get worried, right? I wonder who you're with now, Bella. Are you actually with a guy or something? Well, I know that it's not possible, though. You're not that attractive as a woman, because after all, women are all about their charms. You need to learn something about that. Behind Dominic's laughter, I could hear a woman laughing. With everything Dominic has been saying to me, I got so hurt that I was just about to cry. Dominic, how did you become such a lousy human being? Suddenly, startled by his mother's voice, Dominic jumped up. Mom, you're together with Bella? Why? I thought you two didn't get along. Unlike you, how can I be on bad terms with such a nice girl? I can't believe you're cheating on Bella and making her so sad like this. Wait, Mom, first of all, I don't understand what you mean by me cheating on Bella. Bella must have told you lies anyways. I'm on a business trip, and this is for work. Please, believe me. Then, is it okay if we contact the company about it? And immediately, Dominic began to panic even more. To the company, he must have taken a leave for the vacation trip. The business trip was a lie from the very beginning. I can no longer consider a man like you as my son. My love for you as your mother is completely gone. There is no place for you here, and you do not have to come back here anymore. Saying that, Abby hung up the phone. As I froze at Abby's yelling, which I had never heard from her before, she gave me her usual gentle smile. Well, let's get ready, shall we? We then immediately began to prepare and leave the house. I sent my important things to my parents' house for now, and left only the signed divorce papers onto the table. Abby apparently owned a vacation home which Dominic didn't know about, and I hired a mover to move everything, including the furniture, from there that day. I'm giving this house away. That boy will be spoiled as long as he knows that I am here. I have to make sure he gets a good punishment for the mistakes he made. Abby said this with a smile, and also had people to replace the locks on the house. A few days later, Dominic finally came home and was at a loss when he tried to enter the house. He could not get in touch with Abby and I either, and he was forced to sleep in a small hotel for a while. Even when he went back to work, he never got a break. We had reported his affair to Dominic's company as well. When his boss saw the photos of Dominic's affair, he immediately turned pale. Actually, the woman with whom Dominic was having an affair was apparently the daughter of the president of one of their clients. Knowing that the whole company knows, Dominic confessed about his affair. He was immediately sent to apologize and see their client, but there was no way he would be forgiven. It was a major company, but the contract they had were terminated because of what had happened, and that caused tremendous damage to Dominic's company. Everyone at work found out about Dominic's affair, and he resigned a few days later, having lost his place in the company. The last time I saw him was when we were communicating through the lawyer for a divorce and alimony due to his affair. Seeing Dominic becoming so depressed, I realized that if you do the wrong thing, you will always get hurt. I also filed a claim for alimony with Dominic's mistress, and Dominic was also being sued from his mistress. The mistress had also been disowned by her parents and kicked out of their house, so that's why she was suing Dominic. Dominic will have to deal with them now, and he will continue to have a hard time, but I don't really care what happens to him now. Dominic and I are divorced now, but I still kept in touch with Abby. Her vacation home was actually located near my parents' house. I would occasionally visit her, and we would eat sweets that Abby made and catch up with each other. It was a difficult few years, but now that I am having a good time with Abby, I feel that it was all a good learning experience for me. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Gary and I hope you're having a fantastic day or evening wherever you are. In today's story, Opie found out his fiancée cheated on him with her boss after he gained access to her phone and discovered she had been having an affair with her boss 2 months before Opie proposed to her. Now her life is a wreck after her affair got exposed and she got fired from her job. Now, let's get into today's story. I really wonder when I will get past this. I and my fiancé have been together for 6 years. I proposed to her during COVID and she was actually having an affair when she accepted my proposal. Why would anybody do that? Why would someone accept a marriage proposal from one person while sleeping with somebody else? Anyway, this is a long post. I have been typing it out for weeks. It is therapy for me in a way. Not really looking for any advice, just trying to empty myself out somewhere and tell my story. I'm a pretty awkward guy. I've never been big with the ladies, but when I met my fiancée, let's call her Bess, I was head over heels in love within a minute. I had never been in love before, but I knew she was the one I wanted to spend my life with as soon as I met her. For some reason, she seemed to really like me as well, and we were talking about kids and moving in together by the end of the week. The time up until Discovery Day was great, at least it was for me. It obviously couldn't have been that great for Bess. One day I happened to see a glimpse of a message on her phone that made me pause. I laid awake that night and got up while she was sleeping and went through it. I'm very comfortable with technology. I actually make a living through some mobile apps I made. I'm not super rich, but I could comfortably take a year off without suffering any long-term economic consequences. Anyway, I didn't find anything absolutely conclusive, but I did find a lot of suspicious stuff like deleted messages. She also had a Snapchat contact with an icon that indicated a lot of interaction. There were also some pictures of a guy I didn't recognize. So I installed spyware to monitor her phone. I did a Google search and selected the most expensive service I could find. I could even turn the camera and microphone on remotely. The next day, Bess was supposed to go on a 5-day business trip. She works in sales, so this wasn't necessarily something that was strange for her. As soon as she was out the door, the messages started going back and forth. I was devastated. I vomited several times. I just couldn't believe what I was reading. For a long time, I refused to accept what it meant. I became obsessed and started going through everything I could get access to. I found out their affair had started more than 2 months before I proposed to her. Her affair partner, a work colleague, was a married man 10 years older than her with 3 children and a wife that was 7 months pregnant at this point. The final insult that day was when I could hear them in action in a hotel room where they professed their love for each other. They talked about running away and starting a new family. I was totally distraught. I had no idea what to do. I didn't have the guts to call and confront her. In the end, I ended up calling my best friend since childhood. Let's call him Kay. Kay grew up in a Brazilian household. He was already tough as nails when he and his mother moved in next door when I was 12. This was in the UK, by the way. Kay didn't know a word of English, but over the first summer we became close friends and I learned some Portuguese and he learned some English. I guess we bonded so strongly through a shared trauma. Me and Kay have been inseparable since, which is kind of weird because I'm a shy, awkward Noid. Kay is very popular and not afraid of anything, unlike me. I told Kay everything and showed him the messages and the emails I managed to uncover. He was silent for a long time. He told me that he couldn't give me any specific advice because this was something I had to deal with. I had to deal with this the way that was right for me. He then proceeded to remind me about a girl he had been with that had cheated on him. He went nuclear and exposed her to family and friends and then did no contact. I had no idea what to do. For the next few days, we packed all her stuff and drove it to a storage unit, then changed the locks on my apartment and prepared to pick her up from the airport. Bess was all happy and laughing when she got into the car, but then she instantly noticed that something was wrong with me. I just told her I wasn't feeling well. Kay smiled at her and told her I had a fantastic surprise planned for her at her parents' house. I didn't say anything, not a single word the entire trip. I tried to not let her see my face, and I faked a smile as best as I could. From the moment Bess got into the car, the rest of the day seemed like it played out in slow motion. I had already talked to her parents the day before and told them we were coming by. I told them I had a surprise announcement to make. When we arrived, there were hugs and smiles, and I almost backed out at that point. I love her parents. They've been so good to me and always made me feel welcome. Soon Bess was sitting on the sofa in between her parents. At some point, someone asked about the big surprise. Kay encouraged me to go on. I started off by telling her parents how fond I was of them and how grateful I was that they had welcomed me into their family and treated me in such a way that I always felt welcome. Then I choked up for a few minutes. I had this entire speech planned out. It was eloquent and composed. I totally forgot my speech, so I just blurted it out. Bess has been cheating on me with a work colleague that has kids, and his wife is 7 months pregnant. The engagement is off. The wedding is off. Our relationship is over. Bess, your stuff is in the storage container. I just dropped the key on the floor. This is goodbye forever. I walked out while everyone was just sitting there silent. I heard Kay tell them that I needed time to heal and to not contact me unless it's absolutely necessary. In the car, Kay told me to post to the Facebook group. The Facebook group was where we were planning the wedding. Everybody was on there. My entire family, her entire family, friends, everyone. I posted a short message almost identical to what I told her parents and then disconnected from the group. Kay kept telling me he was proud of me, that one day I would look back at this and be happy that I stood up for myself. I was just stunned. Nothing about this felt good or real. The next planned stop was the affair partner's wife. When she opened the door, I just blurted it all out and didn't even introduce myself. I'm pretty sure she slapped me at some point. As I gave her a thumb drive with the evidence on it, her husband came around the corner behind her. His wife immediately started screaming and told him to get lost and not come near her. He tried making excuses, but as soon as he took a step forward, Kay was right up in his face instantly. You heard the lady. Get out. After a bit more back and forth, he eventually packed a bag and scuttled off. Kay talked to his wife for a while, and I was just trying to process my screwed up life in my mind. In the end, we were invited inside the house of Kay's mother and agreed to spend the night there until her father could arrive the next morning to pick her up. She was scared her husband would turn back up, and she did not want to be alone. Inside, I was treated like I had turned invisible. No one saw me or noticed me. I just sat there crying silently. I understand she was in a much worse situation than me because I was not married and did not have kids. At some point, they all fell asleep while I still sat there crying. I decided that I was going to just end it. I started looking for pills, but I couldn't find any. I just couldn't get my head around what was happening. Her father arrived at 5:30 in the morning, and I opened the door to let him in. He calmly asked me some questions and if I was okay. He then went inside to find his daughter while I just stood there holding the door. Shortly after, Kay came out to talk to me. I stared at him for a minute, then I just passed out. I woke up in the hospital, and it's now been 3 months since this happened. Kay stayed with me the first few weeks after I returned home because he was scared I was going to try and off myself again. I haven't talked to my ex-fiancé ever since. I changed my phone number and blocked her email address and all access on social media. She has come to my door a few dozen times. She talks through the door, sometimes for as long as 4 hours. She talks about how sorry she is and begs for forgiveness. She has told me that she has broken it off with the affair partner and that the affair partner's wife is divorcing him. She also said that she's been fired because the affair partner's wife reported them to HR. Update. I ended up deciding to try to talk to her parents to see whether or not they could get her to stop coming to my door. I don't really care what her reasons are. I don't care what she wants. I realize now that my perception of her and who she actually is in real life are two different people. I just want her out of my life so I can move on. Anyway, before I was ready to talk to her parents, her dad showed up at my door. He had a six-pack of my favorite beer and he asked if we could talk. I said sure and told him I'm on my way out. Maybe we could walk and talk. I didn't want him to come inside, not just because I've been a mess and my apartment reflects that, but I didn't want to let him in and maybe suddenly his daughter would be at the door or something. He popped 2 bottles of beer and he just started to talk. Initially, he apologized on behalf of his daughter. Then he told me that his wife and daughter had been pressuring him to go see me to somehow get me to talk to his daughter. He told me that his daughter was spoiled and selfish and that he hoped that for once she would have to face the full consequences of her actions. Maybe he hoped she could be a better person in the future. Final update. I asked him if everything was okay between us, and he said there were no problems at all, but jokingly said maybe it was time for him to get a divorce. Apparently, the confrontation between him and his wife and daughter didn't go that well after meeting me, but this time he told me he wasn't going to back down. This seemed to be a fight that had been a long time coming for him. As for Kay, he has been great as he always is. He has been supporting me and encouraging me all along. Now that I am out of it, I realize how right he was that one day I would be proud of what I had done. I stood up for myself, something I usually never do, and I feel awesome about it. I will 100% do it again in the future when necessary. My ex showed up again at my door, and I actually talked to her this time. She begged me to let her in so we could talk. I told her okay, but I had some things to do and that I would meet her at a local park in a half hour. I didn't want her inside my mess, and as some of you pointed out, maybe she could make some accusations or something if I met her alone. Strangely enough, I wasn't nervous and felt kind of good actually. Anyways, I went to the park and she was there crying. I sat down and we had some meaningless small talk. She tried to interrogate me about what me and her father talked about. I told her that was private between me and him and frankly, none of her business. I was starting to get bored, so I asked her what she wanted to talk about. She then went into this hour-long tirade about how sorry she was that she loved me so much. I told her that I forgive her because I don't want to carry that anger, hatred, and hurt anymore. Getting back together, though, that is never going to happen. People who love other people don't do what she did to me. I can never trust her again. She cried hysterically and I sat there and watched. It was strange because I have never felt that detached from anybody. I called her dad to come get her and I told her that I hoped she would get some counseling and fix herself. Something was obviously broken inside of her. Then I got an Uber and I went to the local animal shelter and adopted a kitten. I named the kitten Shiny. Kay joked that he was blinded by my new shiny spine. The kitten's name is Shiny to always remind me to stand up for myself. I am happy I managed to take the high road and just be honest with her without yelling or calling her names. I've been playing with my amazing kitten, having a lot of fun, and Kay is coming over later to play some video games and swing down some beers. I am sad about my ex. I feel sorry for her. I will miss the good times we had, but I am also relieved that I am done with this now. I received some hard, uncomfortable truths from some of you, but it was what I needed to hear. Wow, Opie, I'm very happy to hear about the support system you've had around you during this difficult time period in your life. Your friend Kay sounds like a great lifetime friend to have around. Also, you definitely can't go wrong with having a kitten to keep you some company. They say that a dog is a man's best friend, but in this case, your kitten will be your best friend along with Kay. It's also great to hear that your ex-fiance's father had so much understanding of your situation. He appears to be a great man and a selfless person. What you have gone through is absolutely tough, but I can tell you are trying to make the best of it, and most importantly, you learned how to stand your ground. I wish you all the best, Opie. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's story. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take
Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark. I hope you all are having a fantastic day or evening. In today's story, Opie found out his spouse cheated on him with his own son after they met at a bar, then got drunk and slept together. There's no absolute worse betrayal than your own spouse and son doing something like this. The Opie then rightfully kicked them out immediately and went no contact. Now they're both homeless. Let's get into today's story to find out what happened. I was a young dad. My now late wife and I had my son before we were even 17. She sadly died suddenly at 22 not long after we got married, and I've been a single dad since. It's been tough, but I think up until this I did my best. I hadn't had time to have any relationships really up until I met her. I threw myself into being a dad and concentrating on my business. I'm not saying I've been a monk, I just have not had anything serious. Never anyone serious enough to introduce my son to. But just under 3 years ago I met AJ. I wasn't expecting it, but before long I was head over heels. The first 6 months or so were more casual, but when we realized we loved each other we made it official. I was even planning to ask her to marry me next month on her 26th birthday. I was even going to ask my son to be my best man. I didn't introduce them at first due to not being sure how he'd take it, so we waited a while. But after they met last year we've since all hung out and everything has all been good. Granted this year they haven't seen each other much due to lockdown and him being at uni, but I didn't think anything of that. I couldn't see her much this last month due to the lockdown again. However, I've noticed as the past couple of weeks have gone on that she had been a bit quiet and moody. I had asked her about it, and she put it down to being overwhelmed. Likewise, I have noticed it in my son being a bit withdrawn, but I assumed he's been busy with uni. When I finally saw her again this weekend I really noticed, so I called her out on it. She broke down and admitted she cheated on me. Just like that. I was shocked. So I was trying to get it out of her, and she admitted it was with my son. Just before lockdown started in November she was out with her mates, and she bumped into my son in the pub. They got pissed, shared a taxi, and ended up drunkenly having sex. I basically threw her out there, and then saying I never wanted to see her again. She was begging me, pleading and making a scene and everything. I then asked my son to come over and I confronted him. He admitted it was true. He said it was a huge mistake and begged me to forgive him. I told him he needed to stay at someone's house and that I didn't want to look at him anymore. He's at my mom's. I haven't told her what he did, but she knows it's serious seeing as how close we have always been. She's been ringing me, sending me emails, texting me begging for another chance, and so has my son. I've packed up the stuff that she left here and left it in her front garden in a bin bag. I've even shucked her Christmas presents I've got her too. Let her enjoy them early. I'm absolutely distraught. They're the two people I loved most in the world. I wanted to marry her, maybe have kids and spend my life with her. Likewise, he was more than my son. He was my best friend. I sacrificed so much to give him an amazing life, and they've both stabbed me in the back in the worst way. I don't think I'll ever forgive them ever again. They're welcome to each other as far as I'm concerned. I feel so update I wasn't planning to originally do an update because of so many abusive comments/texts received last time, but on the other hand I had so much support I thought I'd update those who have been supportive. So I basically met up with AJ, my ex. I asked her the truth, what went on, and whether there was anything else going on previously. She was really passionately saying no. It literally was a case of her having a drink with her mates, and my son was in the pub, and they got drunk together. When they were sharing a taxi, he admitted he liked her, made a pass, and that was it. She was saying things like she'd never ever do it normally, but because she hadn't seen me for a little while and he reminded her of me so much that night, it just happened. I told her to stop blaming the booze or anyone else and that she needed to own it. No one else. I also was honest with her that she was the first person I've let in and loved since my ex-wife died, and I've been happier with her in the past 3 years than I was for years before that. I told her I was even going to propose to her. She broke down, telling me again how sorry she was and asking me for another chance, and saying that she would never forgive herself. I told her she needed to one day so she could learn from this, but that it was over for us. I would be blocking her number and email, and I didn't want any contact again. Then I left. I feel much better after meeting her. As devastated as I am, I do feel like that's a bit of closure. Simply to see that I don't really hate her, but actually pity her. Through not being able to control her alcohol or keep it in her pants, it's cost her a relationship with someone she cares about and likely will affect her relationships for years to come. Not that I don't think she's any less responsible or deserves the outcome. It also helped me to truly see how immature she is. Before this, I was blissfully ignorant because I was happy. Now it's made me really conscious of it. Never again. Now my son. I realized the other day when I made my post I was very angry, and the way I was typing it seemed like it was going to flat out disown him. But let me stress he's my son, my flesh and blood, and I love him dearly. He's also my wife's son, and I could never just get rid of him for her, but he has let me down and really hurt me massively, and I have lost not just all respect but trust in him. So I met him also and heard his side of the story. It was largely the same as hers, but the difference was he said she was being really flirty with him, and she said he really reminded her of me, and that's when he told her he had a crush and made his move. I told him what I wrote out above, that I love him but have no respect for him or can trust him anymore. I told him also about my plans, that I was going to propose to her and even have him as my best man. He was gutted, just really silent, and started crying. I told him we needed to have no contact for a while, that he needed to get a job and not work with me on weekends as he does at the moment, and we needed to talk to my folks to see if he could stay with them for a bit. But in order to do so, I wanted him to be a grown-up and tell them why to their face and deal with it as a grown-up. So I drove him there and made him tell them. They were devastated. Not just upset, but the look in my mom's eye. I'll never get over that. She told him how disappointed she was in him and that she never thought he'd do something like this. I asked her if he could stay there for the foreseeable future, but not for free. He had to pay his own way, proper board, contribute towards the bills, buy his own food. She agreed out of respect for me. I also sat him down and showed him that I transferred over a large amount of money and explained that was the money I was saving for AJ's engagement ring, but seeing as what had happened, I wanted him to have that as a reminder and to use it to pay his grandparents' rent if nothing else. He was absolutely stunned at that, trying to give it back to me. I told him if he did that we definitely were done. We've agreed on no contact at least until Christmas, and then we all, me, him, my folks, could spend Christmas together. I've been largely reflecting for the past few days mainly on me and why I went for AJ in the first place. I was extremely flattered when she asked me out, even though I'd never normally consider anyone that young. But in hindsight, she was the same age as my wife when she died, had the same ethnicity, mixed race, and also even did the same sort of job. So I guess I went for it because she was like my late wife, which honestly makes me really sad. I know I can't blame anyone else for that, but it made me realize also that she, AJ, was only my second ever serious relationship in my life. Like, imagine that. A 37-year-old guy having that few relationships, that a girl 5 years older than my son is a huge chunk of my relationship experience. It also makes me miss my wife massively. I've been just having a bit of me time the past few days, having Alan Partridge marathon that was mine and my wife's favorite thing to watch together. It helps me feel close to her when I'm down. I'm seeing if I can get in touch with the old therapist I was seeing after my wife died and make an appointment with him. I might see if he can take my son on too. Edit. A few people have pointed out we might not be able to see the same therapist due to a conflict of interest. I didn't think of that, so maybe I'll get a recommendation from him for someone else suitable. Thank you. I definitely need to work on myself before I ever date again. I think I have too many issues to be a good partner at the moment, and if/when I do, I'm not dating anyone her age again. I think I'll do a strictly 80s policy of only going for people born in the 80s, and definitely no one born after 1989. Wow, OP, you handled an incredibly difficult situation very well. You should be extremely proud of that. Many people in your position would have lost their minds with rage and grief. When I read your bit about how much AJ reminded you of your wife, I can't help but think that perhaps this was something of a rebound for you. Loss, being as profound as it is incredibly complicated. My thought is that you found aspects of your wife in AJ, maybe even recognized them subconsciously, and despite the time that had passed, decided to pursue the closest person to your wife you had met since she died. It could explain what attracted you to AJ in the first place, what kept you with her, and what allowed you to ignore the immaturity you recognized in your reflections. It may also explain why you were so keenly feeling the pain of losing your wife again. You just lost the two people who reminded you of her the most. Your son will come back, but AJ never will, and in that way you have lost your wife again. Loss is such an event, especially sudden loss, and the damage it causes does not heal quickly. In fact, some of it never heals at all, but there is no timeline for recovery. It is not linear. I hope you do not take this event and use it as a reason to never try again. You will recover, and you will likely love again, but it may be time for you to begin to accept that you will never love another woman the way you loved your wife. That's okay, because that's life. Now let's get into today's second story. I recently found out that my wife of 19 years was having an EA that turned a bit physical. D-Day was back in mid-June. She had a friendship with our middle son's best friend's dad. We'll call him D, that I became worried about. When she wanted to go out to get drinks with him one night, instead of coming home, I saw the writing on the wall. The next day, I checked her phone for the first time, really just to check on the timeline of her asking me if she could go out versus contacting him, and found that she had deleted all of her previous messages. I confronted her, and after denying it for a while, she admitted to having an inappropriate relationship with this guy. It was only after she read up on emotional affairs online that she admitted to having one the next day. She also learned that to get through it she had to come clean, so she opened up about past affairs/inappropriate relationships she had sought. I asked her to put together a disclosure letter in which she detailed this. 1 year into the marriage. Held hands with T when alone during a ski trip. Dirty danced with him in front of his girlfriend when I was out of town. Went to see him at his hotel room when I was not around. She said nothing happened. 4 years into the marriage. Invited her boss M and friend P, who she saw with a prostitute the night before, up to her room during a conference trip to Asia. Had drinks, traded massages with P. Laid on the bed while they poured beer into her mouth. M said it was the sexiest thing he ever saw and allowed him to play with her underwear while they laid on the bed together watching TV. 5 years into the marriage. During an alumni weekend that I did not attend, she played footsie and snuggled with my best friend before sleeping in the same bed with him. Nothing else happened. I don't think my friend would have done anything more. He was a known drunk snuggler. 5 years into the marriage. During another work trip, she planned to get a large hotel room to entertain and invited over some friends she had met during some work training, including a woman that she was attracted to. She said that she was worried she might be bi and had a lot to drink. Someone suggested a strip drinking game, and it turned into an orgy where she did oral on the girl she found attractive and made out with multiple girls the whole night, and also kissed the only guy there. She says she did not have sex other than giving oral since she was on her period. Since D-Day, she is trying to do her part. We are both doing therapy. I'm very codependent, turns out, and I'm starting to see how messed up she is mentally. She seems like she has some narcissistic tendencies, like needing constant affection from other people and seeking those relationships that even she admits are with unscrupulous guys, as she is interested to see where it goes. She has told me that for a while she had 1 foot in and 1 foot out in our relationship, even though we have 3 awesome sons. She had trouble bonding with them when they were born and just recently dropped the bomb that all along she thought that she stayed in the relationship for me, and that these things that she did were her way of making it so that she could stay with me. This, of course, is no longer what she thinks as we attempt our. Now she sees all the errors of her way and wants to learn how to feel empathy again and love me as I should. I wanted to do our for the sake of our boys, but after you tell someone that you were only in a marriage of almost 20 years just to keep me happy and had to cheat to do it, I just don't see how I can be with this person. I mean, I love my kids, but I feel like she wasted 20 years of my life, and I have no idea how I will ever trust her again. If I didn't out her, she would have gone to her grave with this stuff. I know I'm not perfect. I've got anger issues sometimes and contributed to the circumstances that caused her to feel like maybe she couldn't be all in, but when I asked why she didn't tell me about the first instance, or the orgy, she admitted that it was because I would have broken up with her. So which is it? Did you want to be with me back then or not? OP. I'm having trouble with the fact that you actually believe that she never in almost 20 years of cheating never slept with any of these men. She is definitely gaslighting and downplaying the living daylights out of you. What surprises me is that you actually believe her. This is the same woman that has disrespected and made a mockery out of your marriage and vows, and you just believe that nothing happened with any of these men. Why? She's a proven liar and serial cheater, so again, why? Because she said so. I think you need a bit of a reality check here, brother. Maybe threaten her with a polygraph test. You don't have to follow through to see if she's telling you the whole truth. I think you will probably be surprised by her reaction. Good luck, brother. I think you are in for one hell of a ride with this deceitful woman. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed the stories, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation, please do not hesitate to contact. Title: Girlfriend cheated on me, so I slept with her younger and beautiful sister that had a crush on me. Please hit the like button to support the channel. It wouldn't cost you anything. Thank you. My story started in 2014 when I was 27 and she was 28. Back then I was struggling with my career. Years after graduating from college, I thought I need a change of scenery. I made a decision to move to Texas for better opportunity. I had broken up with my girlfriend at the time because she cheated on me. 3 weeks before I moved to Texas, I logged into Tinder to look for women in the area I was moving to. That was when I met my girlfriend. We got to know each other before I moved into town. When the day came to move in, she helped me move into my apartment. We were a good match. We moved in together a year later. I've never clicked with someone like I clicked with her. We got along really well and we say I love yous always. Her 23-year-old younger sister lived in the same neighborhood as me, and her parents live about an hour away from us. She even invited me to Thanksgiving with the family. I met her family. She is the oldest of three. She had a 23-year-old younger sister that just graduated from college and was taking the entrance exam to attend graduate school. Coincidentally, I was planning on taking the exam as well because I was hoping to enroll in a graduate program to change my career path. Over the next few months, I studied with her younger sister and we got really close. I was attracted to her and I suspected that she was attracted to me as well, but we never acted on it since I was in a relationship with her older sister. Moreover, she had a boyfriend back then. The first year was the most incredible years of my life. I spent as much time as possible with my girlfriend. She wasn't an outdoor person, so we would spend most of our free time watching movies. She was everything I could have ever asked for in a partner, and I thought she was the one. After the first year we moved in together, back then she would always bring up marriage and kids and things like that. I had gone back to school to get a graduate degree and was working as well, so I was not in a position to add those additional expenses. And it put a serious strain on me, and I knew it had put a strain on our relationship. Jobs for me were hard to come by because it was difficult to find a job that will work with my hours, so I took a massive pay cut and worked a very low-wage job that I was overqualified for. It paid the bills, but that was it. My girlfriend had a high-paying job at the time. I never once asked her to support me and always made sure to pay my fair share. In the meantime, I worked my ass off trying to better myself by getting an advanced degree that would lead to a better opportunity and improve my future job prospect. I was depressed and unhappy, but I never showed it. Never blamed her for any of it. Tried my best to make her happy. The second year after moving in together was okay. Some good times, some okay times. It was clear then our relationship wasn't what it used to be, but I chalked that up to a settling in and the honeymoon phase ending. This is also when she started really vocalizing out of nowhere how much she did not want to have kids, even though I never brought it up, and in fact I still don't want to have kids. Then out of the blue she started hinting about how she's perfectly content not getting married too, but again I ignored it. During this time, I graduated from my master program and I came close to landing a dream job quite a few times, but always came up just short, and each time I could sense her respect for me dwindling. I told myself to stop being irrational and paranoid, and again ignored something that should have been a red flag. Sometimes her younger sister would call me for advice on relationship issues when she is having problem with her boyfriend, and I would complain to her about her sister as well, and she would tell me she would see what she could find out, but she never got back to me on that. That brings us to our last year together. When we first started dating, we had sex pretty much all the time, like as soon as we walked into our apartments. We both have high sex drives, and it was amazing. This past year, we had sex a grand total of 11 times. And each time it was her doing me a favor after I had basically begged her. Every time I asked, the response was, "I don't feel SXY," when it should have been, "I don't find you attractive, I don't respect you, and I only keep you around to pay half my rent till someone better comes along." But I respected her wishes and stayed with her because I loved her too much. During this time, I was able to find a good paying job, and because I was in a different state from my close friends and didn't feel like making new ones, the only people I knew in my life at the time was my girlfriend and her younger sister. I got along well with her sister, and the more my girlfriend pulls away from me, the closer I got with her sister. Sometimes we would go out to restaurant together. My girlfriend didn't know I was spending so much time with her sister. She was not close to her sister, so she didn't have any excuse to come around. That's why we kept it hidden from her, because she is known to be a jealous person. Our relationship at the time wasn't romantic, just friends. I had suspected something was really off about my girlfriend. She started going to the gym and lost a bunch of weight and became a very different person, both physically and personality-wise. She became incredibly cold towards me, stopped doing all the routines we used to have. She was always very needy and clingy, but all of that stopped. Whenever she would show me some affection, it just seemed so incredibly forced. I tried talking to her about it many times, and she'd assure me that everything was fine. When I talked to her sister about it, she reassured me that I wasn't crazy and there was something going on. So, I knew I wasn't imagining it. I read threads on Reddit trying to figure what to do if you suspect your partner is having an affair. Every second I spent with her at this point was agony, and I felt incredibly lonely. I wanted to end things then, but didn't know how and didn't do it for fear of it actually being all in my head. I basically was looking for hard evidence at this point. And then few months later, she told me she's going on a ski trip with her friends. I asked if I could join, and she said her friends wouldn't allow it because it was supposed to be a girls' trip. In the time we've been together, she had never gone on a trip with anyone except for me. She never even hangs out with her girlfriends outside of work. When I asked her younger sister about it, she said that my girlfriend would be the last person she would think of going on a ski trip. I knew she was having an affair, but I couldn't confront her without evidence. I didn't stop her. I acted supportive and continued to try and focus on myself. When she returned, that's when I started trying to collect evidence. We've always been very open with our cell phones and computers around each other. We both know each other's passwords, etc. She'd always leave her phone laying around the house, and I'd sometimes use it to take pics. But after she came back, her phone was with her 24/7. Not only that, but she was constantly texting. I still didn't act. She even went in for minor surgery one day, and I had her phone with me the entire time, but I decided against checking it. I should have. She started making constant bathroom visits that'd last more than 30 to 40 minutes. Now I realized I should have checked her phone and was just looking for an opportunity. Then on Thursday, she tells me she has to go visit her parents upstate for a family emergency. Her younger sister had gone a day earlier, and my girlfriend would go on Friday after work. She said she would spend the night because her dad is going in for surgery. Her younger sister confirmed it, but my paranoia was still on high alert, and I was scrutinizing her every move and word. So she leaves for work on Friday, and I check her computer. One of the tabs has a Google Maps direction to a neighboring city from her workplace. Definitely not where her parents live. By the way she spent the night before being very affectionate with me, she slept the entire night in my arms, something she's been repulsed by for a long time. I don't know if she was guilty or trying to put my mind at ease, but that got my attention as well. I don't get any texts from her all Friday. I go into work Friday night and still no texts. Also, by the way, the day before she bought some really SXY lingerie, showed them off to me, and then chose to wear the most revealing one to go meet this guy. I called her sister, and she told me that she didn't arrive on Friday. She told her that she was going to see a friend and would be coming to see their parent the following day. Girlfriend then texted me Saturday morning, telling me how her parents were doing and how she spent the night with them, not knowing that her sister already told me that she wasn't with her parent. After we got off the phone, I called her sister to confirm, and her sister told me that she just came in that Saturday morning. I called my girlfriend on Sunday afternoon, and she told me she will be home in a few hours. It took her 5 hours to make a 1-hour drive. And her sister told me that she left Sunday morning, Most likely had another morning session with the guy. The following Monday evening, we planned on going to a baseball game, and we took her car. And I see cash in her car. She never keeps cash in her car like that unless she has to pay tolls. Her parents' house doesn't involve tolls, but the Google Maps destination involved tolls, I remembered. I go to work Tuesday night, and she goes out with one of her girlfriends to a bar at like 10 p.m. She doesn't get home till 2 a.m. I was on the verge of texting her and asking her if she was spending the night with someone, but just as I was about to, she called me and came home. Wednesday, she goes into work. After she gets home, we get some dinner and relax in bed for the rest of the evening. She spends the whole time texting on her phone while she's laying right next to me, but tilting the phone away from her so I wouldn't notice what she's typing. It's incredible how stupid she thought I was. Every time she put the phone down, it'd be face down. She goes to take a shower and takes the phone with her. I have at this point decided I'm checking her phone tonight, even if I have to snatch it out of her hands and run to the bathroom. I wait for her to fall asleep. Tell my final mental goodbyes to a girl I used to know and this life I've built with her. I take her phone and sneak to the bathroom. I check her text conversations. None of them seem out of the ordinary. Only guy there is her dad. I turn off the phone and am about to put it back when something in my head made me turn back and check it again. The top conversation is from one of her girlfriends I know. I open it. It's not her girlfriend, just her name that she was using to hide this dude. I see all the texts, everything they did Friday and Saturday morning. How much she likes him, how much she wants him, etc. I've never felt so defeated and miserable in my life. I didn't think I would be, but seeing those texts were something else. I stormed out of the room and woke her up. She came clean and admitted to the guy, but didn't admit to anything else. I can't really believe anything she says anymore. She wasn't even upset, just mildly annoyed. Blamed our faulty relationship on me. I told her I was going to propose to her this Christmas, and that made her even angrier. She told me she had made it very clear she didn't want to get married. I know that's another lie. She does want to get married and have kids, just not with me. We broke up the following day, and I decided to move out the apartment. Her sister called me when she heard we had broken up. I didn't respond to her call. I was not in a good state then. It took me about a week to get over the breakup. I focused on myself and work. Her sister called and texted me a couple of times, but I ignored her messages. My girlfriend left a bad taste in my mouth, and I thought her younger sister would remind me of her. Moreover, she had a boyfriend and I didn't see us going anywhere. About 2 months later, I ran into her sister at a local grocery store. I was actually the one that spotted her and approached her. She was surprised to see me. We hugged each other and shopped together. After shopping, we sat in her car catching up. I was surprised to find out that my ex-girlfriend had already moved in with her new man. It was clear that the affair had been going on for a long time. I also found out that the younger sister, whom I am speaking with, had broken up with her boyfriend and now single. I thought it was my opportunity to swoop in since I have always known that we had a thing for each other, but never acted on it because I was in a relationship with her sister. Her response was a no, because I was her sister's ex and she doesn't know how her sister will feel about it. I told her that her sister has moved on with her life. We left that conversation open. I left feeling double hurt. I went home regretting why I approached her at the grocery store. I should have kept no contact. I was almost fully recovered from the breakup. I didn't want to call her or pressure her, so I didn't call her back for 3 days. Then she texted me on a Thursday, asking me what I was doing on Friday. We went out on Friday and ended the night at my apartment. We became friends with benefit, and we quickly realized we both wanted more from the relationship. We got into a secret relationship because she wasn't ready to tell her sister about us. 3 months after my breakup with her older sister, she broke the news to my ex that we were dating. It came as a surprise to me because she was telling me all along that she was going to keep it a secret. Her sister didn't take the news well, even though she left me for a new relationship with the guy she cheated on me with. She called me a predator and all kind of names. She told me that I have been cheating on her all along with her younger sister and I am the worst human being. She told me that I was dating her younger sister out of spite and I am not capable of loving anyone. I hanged up on her because I didn't know her any explanation. Her sister had turned 24 at the time, and I was about to turn 28, so I wasn't sure why she even cared. She tried to force her sister to break up our relationship, but her sister refused to do that, so my ex cut contact with her younger sister. We were a better match for each other. She is more laid back and intellectually sound, younger and better looking. I went home with her for Christmas and introduced her to my parent. Something that I didn't do for my ex. 5 months into our dating, she got pregnant and I proposed to her. She married before her elder sister and would have a baby before her. Knowing who my ex is, she would be jealous. Her sister refused to come to our wedding, thinking that everything is about her, and I was dating her younger sister out of spite. She tried to get all her family member to break up our relationship, but when they realized how happy we were, they began to play lip service to her. I believe it was 2 years into our marriage that my now 31-year-old ex broke up with her boyfriend she cheated on me with. He was cheating on her with another woman, and apparently the other woman was younger and a better option. I had her younger sister as my wife and a new boy. By then she had reconciled with her younger sister. My wife helps her through her nasty breakup. I told my wife that I don't want to see her older sister in my house or near my child. Fast forward 7 years and counting, and our relationship couldn't be better. I now have 3 kids and my ex-girlfriend is still single. She dates here and there, but they never amount to nothing. She had been trying to reach out to me to get closer, but I don't want anything to do with her. She tries to be nice to me or have a conversation with me at family gatherings, but I don't give her a time of the day. She is afraid to come by our house and would complain to her parent that I was being a jerk to her. But I don't care. I don't want anything to do with her. Please hit the like button for more content like this one.